welcome to this channel. In this channel again, we talk about mastery skills. Everyone can master anything that they want. There's no stupid person. There's no stupid person. That's always our philosophy. Okay? And our slogan is always learning to know, learning to do, and learning to be. So it's not only about mastery skills, and you want to master something and then you cannot bring it to a point where you can apply. So for example, if you read a book and they master everything from the book, then the next thing you want to do is to do whatever you've learned, whatever you've known, now to use them, you apply them into a real life situation. So you're welcome to this channel. In this video I'm going to talk about my challenge. I challenge myself to master the book of Exodus. Okay, so the book of Exodus is very interesting and a very powerful book. It depends on from which philosophy you are looking at it, but I found it really nice. So the first thing that you do, I also do. The first thing is to read the book fully, because I teach what's called speed reading. So we will read the book very fast. I'll read the book very fast, and then comes the stage where now you want to master everything. So the book of Exodus starts from chapter 1. Start with that Israelites are now suffering under the new Pharaoh, who didn't know anything about Joseph. After that, now you go to chapter 2 that talks about the birth of Moses. So if you remember, the book talks about that the Israelites are now becoming stronger and they're getting many, and the Egyptian Pharaoh, for example, thought that this is now being a threat to the Egyptian. So then he said, let the kids. He tried several attempts, but now the final solution was that the kids, the young borns of Israelites has to be killed. After that, Moses is picked by Pharaoh's daughter. He grows up there, and he's one of the kids who grow at the palace, as you can imagine. And then later he gets into a situation whereby he kills an Egyptian, and he runs to the desert. So symbolically, I am always looking at this like, why move to the desert? But that's a lesson for another day. But for now, he moves to the desert. He helps Jethro's daughters, and then he meets Jethro, and he's given a lady, so he gets married. So then we go to chapter 3, where now Moses meets with God. So God called Moses. And then we go to chapter 4, where God gives Moses powers, because Moses is complaining and saying, you know what, I am not the right person. I don't even speak, I stammer. And then God say, what do you have in your hand? And he says a stick. And then also God, so that is when he gets the powers that he can also prove that he was sent by God if he meets Pharaoh. So then we go to chapter 5, where now Moses and Aaron present themselves for the first time in front of Pharaoh. And then after that we have chapter 6, when Moses is complaining to God. And after that we go to chapter 7, when now God commands Aaron and Moses. And after that, one thing about this that I found really interesting, this chapter, when God says that I will make you like God, and I will make Aaron like your prophet, so that he will get information from you. So that's also like really powerful information there that I found. And then from there starts then the plague. So then we go to chapter 8, where we have the plague of the frog. We go to chapter 9, when we have Moses announces that the animals will be killed. So the animals start dying. And then we go to chapter 10, where we meet then locusts. And then chapter 11, where we meet the final plague, when Moses now announces the firstborns will die. And then after that we have then chapter 12, where we have the Passover. So the Israelites now that's when we have now Exodus, then they leave Egypt. So after that we go to chapter 13, where God now commands Moses and say, you are my people and you have to dedicate to me your firstborns. So the dedication of firstborns. You go to chapter 14. Chapter 14 is about crossing of the Red Sea. This is a story that I found really interesting because I shared, I learned from a Jew who was telling me that very, very interesting. So very, very interesting thing happened after Moses, striking the river, the sea, and the sea, separates, and everyone was hesitant to cross. And there was one person that I learned, only from my research on with the Jews, that they said this person is called Nashon, and what happened with Nashon was that Nashon, he was the only person who was so happy and saw the miracle and was like, yay, and he kind of like shouted and went in, and that's only when everyone started following. Everyone like immediately the sea separated. There was no way of anyone, like no one trusted that they can just walk in. But it's only Nashon that day, so that's why I like that chapter. But anyway, apart from that, then we go to chapter 15, where Moses sings the song of Moses, and also I found that also very interesting, that his song is about praising God. It's about, in his songs he elaborates a lot about how the soldiers and the chariots of the Egyptians, get thrown into water. And also he praises God, and he says, we are going to follow God's will as we now leave Egypt. And then we go to the 16th chapter, which is about giving, God now gives the Israelites manna and quails, and chapter 17 is about water coming from the rock. These two chapters makes me feel more human, because what you see here is happening is that after now leaving Egypt, God is giving them the basic needs. That is, they're getting food, and they are also getting water. So this is the basic needs. So that's something that I also found really, really interesting. And then so we go, that's chapter 17, now we have water. After that, we have then Jethro bringing, coming after Jethro had everything that happened to Moses, and that he made the Israelites now move. Now he says that I want to bring Moses, his wife Zipporah, and their son. So that's what Jethro comes. After Jethro comes, now we see the Israelites moving there to the mountain of God, Mount Sinai. That is chapter 19. Now chapter 20, God gives Israelites 20 commandments. The 10 commandments. So they get the 10 commandments from God. After that, then we have laws or treatment of slaves. God tells them how to treat slaves. And after treating slaves, then we go to, that is chapter 22. Chapter 23 is about the law of repayment. How do you repay if, for example, if someone steals a cow, how do you deal with that? Also, if I go back a little bit on chapter 18, as a project manager, I found that one really interesting, because what I found out was that when Jethro comes, he realizes that Moses is so busy, working with many old people, issues in the community, and then he is the first person who says something like, why don't you delegate, set a team who are going to be specialized in handling those kind of issues. That was very, very, very key. So now let's go to chapter, so we had chapter 22, so now let's go to chapter 23, where we talk about justice and fairness. Okay, and then we go to chapter 24. Here is when the covenant was then sealed. Chapter 25, we talk about the offerings for the the sacred tent. So they are supposed to create a sacred tent, and then what kind of offerings are supposed to be there? Something like gold, bronze. Okay. Then we go to chapter 20. Then we go to chapter 26. So then making of the tent of Lord's presence. This is also like, if you remember, if you read the book very well, it says you are supposed to make a tent. The tent of Lord's presence was supposed to be inside the tent of the sacred tent. And after that, there was chapter, and that was chapter 26. Chapter 27, then we talk about the altar. Chapter 28, the garment of the priest, how to make a recommendation on how to make the garments of the priest. Chapter 28, the ordination, the instruction on how to ordain Aaron and his sons. Chapter 29, we have then the altar of burning incense. After that, we go to chapter 30, where we talk about the craftsmen who are supposed to build the sacred tent, and so. So in this case now, we have two people who were dedicated for this. So you have Bezalel, and this one was coming from the family of Judah, and you have Oholiab. Oholiab was coming from the family of Dan. So they are the one who was selected, and God gave them skills on how to build the tent and work with Aaron and his sons. And then we go to chapter 31, when Moses delayed a little bit on the Mount Sinai. The Israelites decide to put pressure on Aaron to build the golden calf so that they can worship. This is a chapter that I found really interesting because first of all, Aaron says that, they are so committed to sin, the Israelites were so committed to sin, that they asked him, and therefore he was put under pressure, and he could not deny that pressure because all of them wanted. So that is one thing. Another thing was that, also I found interesting, is that if you go further, I think around verse 32, is when then Moses is so angry and he says, come back to, if you believe in God, come back to me. And all the Levites come, and he said, if you believe in me, take your sword and go and kill your sons and your wives and your dads. And then they go and kill. In that case, then 3,000 people were killed, people who didn't believe in God. Okay, so then we go to chapter 33, where we talk about then, so this is after they sinned, so God send them away. So God say, all of you now have sinned, and if I have to bring you to the promised land, then I think I will destroy all of you. So I will send an angel. That's also like really powerful thing. Then we go to chapter 34. Chapter 34 is when now Moses gets extra. They get the second stones with the commandments, and also the first after Moses. That's also like something that I forgot that I want to talk about. That when Moses, after they killed 3,000, and Moses goes back to God. That was like a very powerful negotiation skill when Moses says, you know what, your people have sinned against you, and may you forgive them, and if you don't forgive them, then delete my name from your people. I found that really, really big, and that shows like who Moses is. Okay, that one was really tough. So then we go to chapter 33, chapter 34. They already got a new tablet, and then chapter 35 is when now we talk about the laws or regulation for the Sabbath. Chapter 36. Now the set. Now we go to the craftsmen. That's the people like Oholiab, who are supposed to then build start building. So that's about them. Then chapter 36 is when now it's about construction. So the craftsmen start building. So the first thing they build is covenant box. What I also found interesting that really made me even do some research was the acacia, that they had to use acacia to build it. I don't know what the acacia symbolizes, but I found it really nice, and also look for where do you find acacia in the world, and I saw like you get a lot of acacia around Africa, then you have South America, you have part of Middle East, and also in Australia. So that for me was very important to know where exactly do you find acacia. So that's what they do. Building the covenant box, they had the gold on top. With a winged creature, looking from all the directions. So that was also like powerful. I don't know what that one means, but if you have any idea, then let me know. Then we go to the next chapter. It's about building the altar of burning incense. Okay. Then after that, now that was also built, and then we go to the second last chapter. That is chapter 37. We have then making of the priest garment. Okay, and then from there we go to, I think that's chapter 38. Then from there, chapter 39, I think, yes. And then from there we go to the last chapter where we talk about the setting and dedication of the tent of Lord's presence. So that was Exodus for you. I read it and then tried to master all the stories. So that was it. If you like what happened, or if you like this kind of skill, please just subscribe and subscribe to our channel. And if you want these skills to be taught in for your school, or maybe for your son or daughter or your child, or for yourself, then let me just know, communicate to me, and then we see how we can work. I always offer online classes, and this one is something that you can have. Thank you so much, and bye bye.